Hey everybody, welcome. Welcome to Zenny 62 on a Tuesday night, and I have some exciting topics. I've called on Audible. Originally, I was going to have Oakland Post publisher Paul come on, but he's going to come on another time. And tonight, we're going to talk about a question that has been the mind of a number of people who are regular viewers of this show, and that is, what's the latest on the Oakland Raiders lawsuit? And there's big news, particularly after last night's scintillating, and I mean scintillating game, pitting the visiting Kansas City Chiefs and the host Los Angeles Rams. That game, which I last night said, and I still contend is the greatest game the NFL has ever played, has just cemented the financial future for the NFL because today, according to Sports Business Daily, Jerry Jones said that he has no plans to sell the Dallas Cowboys, but if he did, if he did, if he did, he would not accept less than 11 figures if he changes his mind. That's right, 11 figures. In other words, what he's saying, hey, folks, is that the Cowboys are worth $10 billion. That's right, $10 billion. Now, considering that the Carolina Panthers were just sold to Dave Tepper, who's worth himself $11 billion, considering that, the Cowboys, if it was sold for $11 billion, that would be beyond the most expensive sports business ever sold in the history of the planet. That would set a standard unimagined before. 11 billion, right? $11 billion. So let's wrap this all up. Let's begin to wrap this all up into what is going to be a gigantically huge, freakingly big bow by the time we're all done. And it looks like this. Basically, what it looks like is, first of all, let's kind of get a hold of ourselves and think about what happened last night. What happened last night was that you had two NFL teams that were expected to play a high octane game, right? They're the Rams and the Chiefs were expected to go down to Mexico and be good visitors and excite everybody with great football, you know, played in a rock'em sock'em style, touchdown here, touchdown there, in game, 35, 38, 35, something like that, right? Well, first of all, that didn't exactly happen like that. It was it was much more. It was much more. The Chiefs Rams game was the highest scoring game in Monday Night Football history, but not only that, it had the best ratings according to the overnight measurements since 2014. So you have to reach back 8 years over the whole controversy with the anthem, over the whole stuff with the issues of concussions and safety, which was just beginning to be in our face in 2014 on a large scale, but not really impacting the NFL's bottom line as of yet. But the whole point is that it drew an 11.3 rating last night's game. That means that 11 million people that were watching this thing. Okay, that's what it means. It's the highest rated Monday Night Football telecast since 2014. So what does it mean? It means that every team owner, every team's owner's mother, every team owner's daughter, every team owner's son is going to want the team owner to hire a coach. If that coach does not already have a system and install a system that does one thing, scores points. What happened last night is the equivalent. Hey, JP from the P, how you doing? Is the equivalent of the 1994 season in terms of home runs. You know the old saying, chicks dig the long ball, right? Well, you're about to find out just how much chicks dig touchdowns, because you're going to get scoring after scoring after scoring after scoring. And this is going to basically change the National Football League into something like almost highlight in a sense where you can bet on the players, and the faster the player is, the more money you're able to bet on the player. Okay. Why do I go there? Because that is exactly where we're headed. I've been the University of Nevada, Las Vegas study on gambling in pro sports, and I'm not quite done with it, but it looks like they've got it figured out. And as Hector Munoz very brilliantly just put it just a moment ago, whoever scores the most points always wins. That's right. And so that's what it amounts to. And as someone said last night, we are going to see a 60-point game before all is said and done. So you would say, what does that have to do with Jerry Jones wanting to sell the Dallas Cowboys for 11 figures? Everything. Because if you're selling your team for $11 billion, and it means this, it means that normally, if you're estimating the valuation of a team, it's 4 times the gross revenue, right? So basically, all you have to do is say, okay, 11 figures, that's $10 billion. And then you have to say 10 divided by 4, that's 40. Or, if you take a look at it another way, you would say the team is making 400 million a year, right? 400 million a year times 4, okay? That's 1.6 billion. So you're looking at wow, you're looking at a team that's taking in $4 billion a year. Okay. Well, actually $2 billion a year. Yeah. 2 times 4 is 2.5 billion a year. So 2.5 billion, come on, Zenny, get your brain together. 2.5 times 4 is 10. So in order for the Dallas Cowboys to be valued at 10.2 billion, they would have to take in 10 billion. They would have to take in 2.5 billion a year. Because the way it goes, the standard multiple for measuring the value of a sports team is the gross revenue times 4. That's for professional sports. That's for the NFL. Okay. So let's see. Yeah. So right now, if I type Dallas Cowboys, gross revenue. I type Dallas Cowboys gross revenue, I get 840 million dollars. That was 2017. So that's almost $1 billion. So basically, in order for Jerry Jones to reach that, the Cowboys would either have to make, or the buyer would have to believe that the Cowboys could make another $1 billion plus to get there. Now you would say, how will they get there? And the answer is quite simple. It starts with a G, gambling. All right. See how this all neatly fits together? Okay. You see how this all neatly fits together? Pedro Gallardo, how you doing? Pedro says, Hector Munoz says no more defense soon. Well, yeah. And the real Noriega gets the award for the comment of the night when he writes, or she writes, I guess, arena football is what the NFL has turned into, and that's true. Arena football on a larger scale. That's exactly right. You're getting arena football, and it's a type of football that has morphed itself into what people want to see now. Defense, what's that? A tip pass? Maybe an interception return 100 yards for a touchdown, as did occur when the Redskins played against not when the Redskins played the Texans. Actually, the Texans were the ones that did it. Yeah, Justin Reed of the Texans returned Alex Smith's would-be touchdown pass 101 yards for a touchdown. That kind of play sells. All right. So I think Noriega's got it right. And Hector Munoz says, are they still selling the Panthers? No, the Panthers were purchased by hedge fund businessman David Tepper. Dell Jr. asks, he says, with the NFL rules catering to offense, were games like last night's the new NFL brand? My answer is a resounding yes. And so again, the question is, I wonder if anybody's calculated this, and if not, I think I'll sit down and calculate it myself, not here. But the question is basically, how much can an NFL team make from gambling? Okay, that's the question. All right, that is the question. All right, and Sports Illustrated says Supreme Court gambling ruling will vastly increase NFL wealth. All right, AG survey says sports betting will add 2.3 billion to annual. Let's see here, to annual NFL revenue as a total. As a total. That's not enough to get the Cowboys where they need to be. They would have to be more than that. And it says here that according to numbers compiled by Nielsen Sports, the league should expect 2.3 billion in annual growth from advertisements, sponsorships, and data related to sports betting. And that's see, here's the problem there. That's just advertisements and sponsorships. That's not pure betting. The American Gaming Association commissioned the poll of more than 1,000 adults. Survey analyzed all prospective revenue streams, including increased consumption of the league's media and products. Sports betting equals sports growth. Sarah Slane, Senior Vice President of Public Affairs for the American Gaming Association, says that, okay, here, all right, says that the survey, the sports betting industry itself would drive 573 million in direct total revenue to the league, 451 million in advertising, 92 million in sponsorships, and 30 million in data. The last number is the subject of some debate. And then it says, 13% of that. Here's where this is not well written, because first of all, when it says, it says 2.3 billion to annual revenue. All right, so think about that. The league itself is getting that annual revenue in terms of 2.3 billion. You could stretch that out into a naming rights agreement for a single team. That would be pretty healthy. And I would say off the top of my head, 10 times 20. Yeah, you could stretch that out to 2 times 3 is 600 million. Well, that'll be longer than that. You could stretch that out to about $400 million naming rights agreement for a couple of teams there alone. All right. But getting back to the Cowboys, the question is, how do the Cowboys get to that point of being worth $10 billion? And I would have to say that they could definitely get to, by looking at this, the Cowboys could definitely get to 1 billion without question. All right. 1 billion. Okay. So if you had 100 million, if you had each team making 100 million, that's 32 teams, that's 3.2 billion. So that right there begins to curtail annually, begins to curtail what the Cowboys could expect from average, according to these numbers. All right. So it would have to be more than that. The Cowboys would have to do something more, like a Dallas Cowboys land, some type of in-game, not so much sponsorship, maybe television productions, facilities, something more. All right, they have their practice facility. They would have to have television shows, player values. They would have to, in order to reach a point where $10 billion is a possible place to be, 10 billion. The Cowboys would have to redefine the value of the player in sport in a way that I think is long overdue. So you have the pack. I mean, if you think about it, think about how Michael Ovitz considered packaging. You say, who's Michael Ovitz? Michael Ovitz was Tom Cruise's agent, Dustin Hoffman's agent, created Creative Artist Agency, CAA, in Hollywood with Ron Meyer and one other person, and also created the concept called packaging. And packaging basically says, all right, I've got one star, and I'm going to fit in not just a series of movies about where this person plays in it, right? But I'm going to also fit him in with other products that are related to the overall brand that I want this person to be. All right, as an individual. Okay, motorcycles, vacations, you name it. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but that's packaging. Packaging is it's more than just putting that person in a movie. It's putting that person in a series of places where they fashion image that is um, appropriate with what the player or the actor in this case, the agent, which is Michael Ovitz, and the companies that they do business with think is best or the best seller with respect to, say, Tom Cruise, right? So, what if that was done, say, for Dak Prescott for the Cowboys, right? You got Okios Triple Zero. What if the Cowboys owned Okios Triple Zero? What if they owned their own food products company? They already own Legends, which is an entertainment and presentation company. Okay, so when you start to think about it, it's possible to get the Cowboys toward that area. It's difficult. So you would say, what is the gap between where they are in terms of revenue, right, which is right now 840 million, and the 2.5 billion they would have to be at, such that times four for the football team, times four, they would be worth $10 billion. So you that, again, part of that is also what was just the team value as a brand. Okay, maybe that's worth 500 million on its own alone, because it doesn't do anything. It's just the Cowboys. Maybe that's a base of 500 million. Okay, so you take that 500 million, you still bring it down to 2 billion, maybe a billion. Whatever it is it achievable? Yeah, I think it is. The question is, who could afford it? And the answer is the NFL would have to absolutely change its rules regarding ownership right now. But think about it in this total scheme of things. You already have Apple Computer is worth $1 trillion, right? You've got, I believe, Amazon's also worth $1 trillion. And as we move forward in time, there will be more corporations worth $1 trillion. You think about the people that own them, multi-billionaires. It's achievable, but you have to team them up. So let me get to your comments. And so Pedro Gallardo says a lot of people are saying that the Chiefs Rams are Super Bowl preview. Who wouldn't watch this? I'm not disappointed. I agree. Hector says he asked a question about the Panthers, which I answered. Mio Noriega correct about the football comment. And Pedro Gallardo says, didn't Forbes say the Cowboys were $3 to $4 billion? How did they go to 11 billion? Oh, no. Jerry Jones said that he's not interested. He told this, according to Sports Business Daily, that he is not interested in selling the Cowboys, but if he were, his ask would be for 11 figures. All right, 11 figures. That's $10 billion, okay? Hey, Juan Ramirez, how you doing? G. Taylor says, why would casinos cut the NFL in on their cash? Well, G. Taylor, I think it's more a question of not so much their cash, but the business that they do with the league. If you are setting up your equipment so that a player bets, that player is the property of the player himself or herself, because there will be women playing professional football. I guarantee it. And that will be the new novelty. Okay. Although, as I think about it, I would like to see a league. I am not, I'll just say it. Okay. I like the idea, but why do women have to dress up like men? I'll just leave it at that. All right. Why does that have to be the case? Okay. I disagree with that. All right. Now, that's all I'll say about that. Let me come back to this. My point is that regarding casinos and players, when you are, in fact, I just got another business idea. But my whole point is, hey, Cody Couch, how you doing? My point is that when you're, let's say G. Taylor, you and I are in business. I own the Raiders, right? You are a casino magnate. And so have an organization of players. You want to have the players as a at the center of your new system in betting. Such things as hey, will extra fantasy sports. Maybe you've got another deal over here with a fantasy sports organization. You've got an in-stadium real-time system or way of betting, right? Fine. Make a long story short, we have to split that money. It's not all yours because I have contracts with the players where they must be compensated. I cannot take in all of your money and then not give it to them. They would stop playing and with the Oakland Raiders, and I would expect that they would do so. I'm just saying, okay? So think about that, all right? I'll get to, for those of you here who are waiting for a lawsuit update, I'll get to that in a second. In fact, you know what? I'll get to it like right now. How about that? Because I did put out a piece, a post rather, on this matter last week, and I didn't get a chance to really talk much about it, but I think it's high time. And it was called "Why is Oakland planning a lawsuit against the Oakland Raiders in the National Football League?" And I was told the reason why I wrote the piece is that I was told by one of the attorneys that they would basically be wrapping up preparation for this by, well, they said before December, but I figured, okay, how about by December? Because look, today is the 20th of November. Days go by. You think, okay, they're going to announce it now, right? All right. So anyway, I wrote a first-person account that spans 43 years of, and it takes in my growing up in Oakland, and having a famous Oakland Raider player, Otis Sistrunk, as family friend. And then I was an intern and then a consultant to the City of Oakland's Office of Economic Development and Employment from 87 to 89. And then I was economic advisor to Oakland Mayor Elihu Harris from 1995 to 1999. And then during that time, I worked with Al Locasal, who was Al Davis' right hand, Raiders executive assistant, and he basically gave me a crash course in National Football League politics. Then I was founder and executive director of the Oakland County Sports Commission and the Super Bowl 39 bidding committee from 1999 to 2001. We lost in a battle with Jacksonville and Miami to host the 2005 Super Bowl. Jacksonville won on the third ballot. And then I was a news blogger and vlogger starting in 2004. And I was CEO of Zinni 62 Media and covering the business of the NFL and then the NFL draft from 2005 to present day. And then I've been both formal and informal advisor to the 5 different mayors of Oakland: Elihu Harris, now California Governor Jerry Brown, the late Ron Dellums, where I served on the Sport and Entertainment Task Force, Gene Kwan, and current Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf. So anyway, a number of you have said that this lawsuit is going to be about Cleveland. It's not going to be about Cleveland. The lawsuit is going to be about money. So forget all the idea about selling to get the name, selling to get the colors, suing to get the name, suing to get the colors. That's not happening, folks. As G. Taylor just wrote, it's about cash. And you would say, okay, why cash? Because the Raiders have done a number of actions that come under the heading of lack of good faith. And you can't, if you're doing business with somebody and you say, hey, look, we have an agreement. You're going to perform 3 different shows on our live stream program, right? And then something comes up. You don't perform. Well, then you turn around and say, well, pay me. And I'm saying, why? And you say, well, we have an agreement on live stream shows. And I said, wait a minute. You didn't show up. All right. Not only did you not show up, you didn't give me a heads up or anything. You just didn't show up. You can't expect to be paid. On the other hand, I do have a right to sue you to recover the costs that I may have spent if I have a high-end production and I'm putting your name out there and I'm promoting you, right? I'm doing all this work and saying, oh, by the way, Misha Bob is gonna, or Misha Who, I'm just coming up with names, is gonna be on the show. And I'm talking you up, I'm putting out press releases, I'm doing special promos and everything else. And you not only not show up once, you do it 3 times, you're costing me money and reputation. In the worst case, I can decide, hey, we have a contract. I'm suing you for damages to my reputation. You see what I'm getting at? Because you didn't act in good faith. And so similarly, the Raiders have said to Oakland, go off and come up with plans for this new stadium. Oh, and by the way, we want to look like this. And we want parking. We want 8,000 car spaces of parking that are right next to the stadium. We don't want it. This is what Mark Davis said at one point. We don't want parking down the freeway. We don't want parking where our fans have to walk a long distance. And I say that because that is, in large part, the situation in Las Vegas. You got that? Okay. So basically, Mark is having the city of Oakland jump through all of these hoops, not once, but twice. In the case of Carson, where Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf, and I was there because Libby specifically did not believe, right up, and this didn't believe on the 18th of May of 2015 when she and I talked that night. We had a long conversation about Carmen Policy because she didn't know who Carmen Policy was. And I explained to her about that. And then I told her, I said, hey, look, Ms. Mayor, the Raiders are working behind your back. She didn't believe it. That same week, after the NFL Spring League meeting, which was held at the Ritz-Carlton in San Francisco, she then went over, and I hope those of you who are watching this, if you're representing whatever party, you're taking notes. Because you're not going to hear this anywhere else. Because the Raiders then, in the guise of Mark Bedane, the great president of the Raiders, and I'm not saying that facetiously, I think Mark has done a fantastic job as president of the Raiders, okay, went to have a meeting that I believe was Thursday, Thursday, with the mayor of Carson and put a Raider pin on his chest, Albert Robles' chest, okay? And the mayor, prior to my explaining to her that Tuesday night that, hey, they're working behind your back, she had no idea. And when she realized it, she was livid. She and I had basically said, I said, look, I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to go up to Mark and I'm going to ask him why he's working behind your back. And I did, and that's on video at Zenny62, okay, on YouTube. So that's called, so here the city of Oakland has been going through all that work, but they did that once. That was Carson, all right? That was Carson. Oh, see, Pedro Gallardo says, I remember parking across the freeway from the stadium in 2002 to tailgate. Not fun. No, it isn't fun. Hey, just think of when it's raining, all right? Just think of what the people in Vegas are going to have to go through with that walk plan that they've got set up there, you know? Waiting for a shuttle in, suppose it happens to rain. It does rain in Las Vegas. Okay, so it doesn't rain. Let's just flip a switch and turn on that 100 plus degree heat and, 90 something percent humidity that the desert area can become known for, right? In southern Nevada there. In either case, it's not a fun situation, but I digress. The point I'm making right now is that the city of Oakland, in the case of Carson, was the victim of Raiders' not good faith behavior. But the trouble is that the Raiders then doubled down on that the very next year. The Raiders did the vote to go to Los Angeles. Mark Davis was pissed. You could see it. I was right up front row. I could see it in his face. And he didn't say what Roger wanted him to say. He said, the Raid, we took a loss today, or words to that effect. And with the Raider Nation, we back. We'll get a home that we're proud of. He did not say. Mark Davis did not say. He let his true colors show that day, on that 16th of January. Mark Davis did not say we will stay in Oakland and find and build a home in Oakland. He basically sounded the call that he was just going to look for a home someplace. When at the back of his mind he had Vegas, because according to a memo that I found online that was posted by Aubrey Clerkin, then of News 3 Television in Las Vegas, and she posted it on, I believe, the 28th of January of 2016. All right. Ms. Clerkin had said, hey, the president of UNLV, which was then Lynn Jessup, announced that officials from the Oakland Raiders, she didn't use Mark Davis' name, but did say officials from the Oakland Raiders were going to meet with Mr. Jessup and officials from Las Vegas Sands, including, I believe, Sheldon Adelson, because the Raiders are seeking a new stadium home in the Valley. Okay, that's how the memo was worded. Think about it, folks. That memo, again, the date of that memo was 28 January 2016. 12 days before that, the NFL had given its vote. What does that tell you? It tells you that Mark Davis had already set this stuff up in his mind. It wasn't like he went and did this cold, like, okay, I lost. Next day, I'll make a phone call. And then when 8 days, we can have a schedule put together. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, no, 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 no. Okay. Oh, no, 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 no. All right. Gito says they may call you as a witness. I have no idea. Pedro Gallardo says, and I think in a number of things where they say they may call me as a witness are sort of online anyway. So they may, they're going to call me online as a witness for a video that's up. Fine. But it's there. Okay. I think the only thing that they may want to call me about would have to do with Mark Davis asking me to come up with a stadium plan and what the specifics around that were. Pedro Gallardo says, I remember Mark Davis saying that that's when San Antonio was being tossed around. But except that San Antonio at the time was when the whole matter of moving to Los Angeles was taken off the table because they lost the vote. From the point of view of the Joint Powers Authority, they were looking at two things: a new lease, and then from the Raiders' own mouth, a desire to continue to work toward a new stadium solution, as they referred to it. Oakland District 7 Councilman Larry Reed specifically told me that year that the Raiders lied to them. And he told me that in April of that year. After, and this is regarding Las Vegas, all right? That was regarding Las Vegas, okay? And that was after the lease press conference, which I have on the video. And you could hear Mark Davis. I asked him, peppered him with questions. He says, well, I'm not going to talk about all the other stuff right now. I want to talk about this. He tries to, this is my press conference, or whatever. Fine, okay? But what was out there was the fact that the Raiders, by the time they signed the lease of the Coliseum, it was just after that, not before, not at that meeting, but just after that, it became common knowledge. Just after that, it became common knowledge that Davis was serious about Las Vegas. He wasn't flirting around. He wasn't flirting around. So, Mom Ramirez says, didn't Mark create a Las Vegas domain online several years ago? But that doesn't mean anything. Okay? Because one, again, it's this, and I want you to pay attention because you don't want to be caught in a position where you're allowing somebody to lie to you. If someone tells you that in 2 weeks, all right, they are going to involve you in or give you free tickets to attend a new nightclub or a new cafe or a new restaurant, and it's got dinner and drinks and everything else. Okay, and they specifically tell you this to your face. So you show up, and someone else says, "Oh, you're not the Juan Ramirez we were thinking of." Your reaction would be what? You didn't know about that, right? So why would you care about 5 years ago when you were told, right, to be there 2 weeks ago? Like, what, yesterday? Okay. How would you feel? All right. How would you feel? Okay. Would you care about 5 years ago? No. So, comparatively, why should the city of Oakland give a flying frick about a domain name that Mark Davis secured in 1998 or whatever? He did it. He claims to have done it. When it has zero to do with what they were told. They were told that the Raiders were interested in, and the NFL as well, pursuing a new stadium solution in Oakland. The Raiders did not tell the city of Oakland, oh, by the way, Mark Davis made this domain name that you should know about. Well, why should we know about it? Why should anybody know about it? Okay. Why should anybody know about it? Juan Ramirez says I'm right. Of course. Okay. What is that called? It's called acting not in good faith. You can make up a domain for anything. I can make up a domain around your name. I have my domain. Okay. So what? The whole point is that you don't want to be in a situation where someone is not telling you what their true intentions are. And the city of Oakland has not just one, not just two, but several examples of not being told the truth about the Raiders' intentions. In the case of Carson and in the case of Las Vegas. On top of all of that, there's this major problem, and that's this. When the deal was consummated, now I'm talking about the Raiders' deal to return to Oakland. When that deal was consummated, and the paperwork was drawn up, there was a $64 million payment that came from the East Bay entities. City of Oakland, County of Alameda, okay, Coliseum Board, but really the East Bay entities, primarily the City of Oakland, the County of Alameda. That money went to the Raiders as a kind of a enticement. Hey, here's some money, a little advance for you to come on up and move, right? Okay, they called it a non-recourse loan. But in reality, according to the California Supreme Court in 2007, it was a payment to the NFL. Why? Because the NFL got wind of what the Raiders received and said, hey, you're supposed to share that money with us, meaning all the other teams of the National Football League. The Raiders said, no, we're not. That's ours. The NFL said, yes, you are. The Raiders said, no, we're not. Guess who prevailed? You got it. The NFL prevailed. Okay. Okay. So what does that mean? It means that the money that was paid from this, when I asked Ezra about it, Ezra Rapport is the architect of the Raiders deal. I said, Ezra, how are the Raiders expected to pay us back for this 64 million? And he said that they're paying us back by being in, and this is what he told me, by being at the Coliseum, by playing at the Coliseum in Oakland year after year after year, by generating purchases, sales, by being, a tenant in Oakland at the Coliseum. That was the payback. Okay. Now, here's the problem, and this is born of the fuck uppery, and I'm not I'm not using that term to be cute. I'm not using that term to be deliberately vulgar. That's exactly what it was, because for many, many years prior to 2014, the arrival of Scott McKibben, the Oakland Alameda County Joint Powers Authority was severely mismanaged, okay? Between politicians who weren't familiar with sports, who hired people who don't understand the business of sports, but made them comfortable. Between those two primary parties, we never got, until recently, optimum management representation over the Oakland Alameda County Joint Powers Authority. And so, because of that, and this is written right in our financial documents, we had a $64 million non-recourse loan that the NFL says is not a loan. The court agrees, says it's a payment to them. But the city of Oakland and the East Bay Indies looked at it as a loan. Its only payback was in the Raiders being there. So what happens when the Raiders leave? Right? The documents, the financial documents state, and I'm paraphrasing, but this is written in black and white, excuse me, that at no point had the JPA developed a way of recovering the monies that were owed by the Raiders. And that remained a responsibility that was outstanding. In other words, something that needed to be done, which to this specific day has not been done. But just because it hasn't been done doesn't mean it can't be recovered if the city of Oakland prevails in court. Because then the question is, hey, you damaged us. What's the dollar amount? And, the city's attorneys can say, well, we have this non-recourse loan out here, which, according to estimates, has ballooned to something like $264 million. There's a start right there. 218 million, depending on how you measure it, there's a start right there. So you add on that plus whatever other, well, of course, the bond issue, the remaining bonds that are owed, you're talking about what, $70 million. So you're looking at, somewhere in the neighborhood of, wouldn't be 318, it would be more like $290. You're looking at rounding it $300 million. All right. So that's 300, excuse me for that vibration. That's $300 million right there. Bing. So there's 300 million. Okay. And I think just realistically, that's about what it's going to be. So you're looking at 300 bills, 300 million in damages. That's a reasonable expectation. Okay. That's a reasonable expectation. Could the Raiders play that? No. They have $370 million relocation fee they got to cough up. That's something to be paid over time. This is a different story. The city of Oakland could almost rightly take that $300 million and apply it to the A's. Wouldn't that be something, wouldn't it? Okay. Corey Brown says, are these types of cases brought in front of a judge or a mediator type thing? This would be very similar to the St. Louis case. In fact, where is that case right now? I should get one of the people out from the St. Louis Post Gazette to talk about this. Not Gazette, but St. Louis NFL lawsuit update there. Okay. St. Louis NFL lawsuit update. The let's see here. The last one was October 3rd, 2018. Rams and Kroenke lose another round in court over St. Louis move. I believe you may have heard about this, but it bears repeating. This is by Kirk Erickson of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. This one, as soon as the page finishes rendering, because they have one of these websites that opens slow, does the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. It doesn't Come on, guys, get it together. Okay, here it's opening. All right. Let's see here. Excuse me. A Missouri appeals court has dumped another attempt by the National Football League to avoid a courtroom showdown over the decision to move the Rams from St. Louis to Los Angeles. In a tersely worded rebuke issued Tuesday, Missouri Court of Appeals Judge Philip Hess turned down the latest maneuver by the NFL, saying the league's ongoing attempt to settle the case out of the public eye failed to meet legal muster. The ruling is another setback for the Rams and the NFL's 32 owners who are fighting a 2017 lawsuit filed by the St. Louis Regional Convention, and Sports Authority, St. Louis and St. Louis County. And then it continues past all this flotsam and jetsam they got here on this page to read. The Sports Authority, City and County, are alleging the move resulted in a breach of contract and unjust enrichment by the Rams, the NFL, and its owners. The Rams, who were in St. Louis for more than this, that's very similar, by the way, what I just read to you. That basically blueprints right there how the city and its lawyers are going after the Raiders and the NFL. It says the Rams, who were in St. Louis for more than 20 years, are 4-0 in the third season on the West Coast. All right, fine. Then it says the lawsuit, one of several that respond by the team's move, claims the relocation of the Rams to Los Angeles violated a 1984 league guideline that was put in place after the Raiders moved from Oakland to Los Angeles. The league, the Rams, and their owner Stan Kroenke have argued that the disagreement should be settled outside of a courtroom based on an arbitration agreement entered in 1995 when the Rams relocated to St. Louis from Los Angeles. A St. Louis City Circuit judge nixed the arbitration bid in December, and with the appeals court ruling on Tuesday, the case is poised to return to the lower courts for further proceedings. The decision means that Kroenke will likely have to file documents in open court relative to the team's departure. That possibility could give the NFL and its teams incentive to settle with the regional public entities suing them. Okay, so that's where that leaves off, and that was in October of this year. Let me see if there's been any updates since then. Let's see here. Retired Ohio FBI agent part of lawsuit against NFL over handling of seems to be different there. Over handling of security representatives has nothing to do with what we're talking about. And let's see here. This is commentary. It says, if corrupt NFL wants the Chargers in St. Louis, here are our terms. Okay, this is interesting. I didn't see this one. So because St. Louis was floated as a possibility for an NFL team, it says, here are our terms. Pay up for everything. This is October 23rd by Bernie Mikulaz. I got to get Bernie on the show. He says, you may have noticed a flurry of recent headlines, something about the Chargers seeking an escape from Los Angeles. Evidently, St. Louis is being floated as a possible destination to serve as a safe space for Chargers owner Dean Spanos. He can land here to be nurtured back to mental and financial health. And why wouldn't Spanos, hypothetically speaking, of course, be squirming to evacuate Los Angeles? Oakland, maybe? The Chargers relocated from San Diego to LA for 2017 and will become Stan Kroenke's tenants. You know all about that, okay? And then this is funny. It says, let's follow the trail of greed and stupidity. Would you want to have Stan Kroenke for a landlord? Probably not. Hell no. What was Spanos thinking? B, the Chargers have approximately 119 fans in the greater Los Angeles area. The decision to take the 5 from San Diego north to seek refuge in LA was not well received. There was no welcome mat, let alone a red carpet, wrote LA Times columnist Bill Plakshy at the time. We, period, don't, period, want, period, you, period. C, until moving in with Uncle Jed Kroenke in 2020, the Chargers are playing home games at the StubHub Center, a 27,000-seat soccer venue in the LA burbs. And despite the small seating capacity, the Chargers have struggled to sell out the home games. Well, this goes on here, okay? And they're coming up short in their ability to sell PSLs, and they have few options. Okay, so anyway, what this guy wants is he says, "Look, I want everything." Okay, he says, it's asking if this guy's the league's emissary has been making the radio rounds here locally, encouraging St. Louis to step up. We ran this story on our site. NFL Insider says St. Louis should make pitch to Chargers. Says league unofficially feels guilty. Oh, poor babies. Okay, and that's what he says. He says, make a pitch, St. Louis. The NFL is unofficially sorry. Not officially sorry, but unofficially sorry. This is hilarious. You can't make this stuff up, folks. Okay, it says unofficially sorry for a rigged and corrupt relocation process in which the NFL violated its own rules for franchise moves in a desperate desire to appease Kroenke and get the Rams to Los Angeles only because Kroenke was willing to pay the cost for a new stadium there. And Kroenke, yeah, $4.9 billion in climbing? Whew, all right. And Kroenke, what this person calls the fake Missourian, was the only chance the league would have ever to get a Los Angeles stadium built. The new estimates have a final stadium construction cost of nearly $3 billion. And Kroenke is picking up the entire tab. Yep, he is. Well, he's back laying it against expected revenues. But that's because of private bonds, he's able to stretch those suckers out based on his collateral, right? But whatever. Despite the offer to build a second stadium for the NFL, even before the first stadium was paid off, St. Louis had its NFL franchise ripped away to satiate the league's lust for money. Now here we are. Wouldn't it be so nice of the NFL to do us such a generous and extremely kind offer or favor by extending us the privilege of St. Louis he's talking about, of building a new stadium to bail Spanos out for making one of the dumbest decisions in the history of sports mankind or womankind? How about personkind? That's really swell. That's me adding that in. That person just used mankind, but gotta change with the times. That's really swell of Commissioner Roger Goodell and the benevolent souls that surround him. Oh, and there's another small matter. Kroenke, the NFL and its owners are being sued by the St. Louis Regional Convention and Sports Complex Authority, the City of St. Louis, and St. Louis County for breach of contract, unjust enrichment, fraudulent misrepresentation, and tortious interference. Whew. The NFL was stunned when an order issued. You know all that stuff, okay? So this guy this is pretty long. He lays out the whole proposed terms, and this is a god-awfully long thing, all right? And then at the end of it, it calls for Roger Goodell to resign, which I disagree with because, look, come 2026, his contract's up, and he's going to be riding off in the sunset anyway. Okay, I don't agree with all that, but there lays that out, all right? That's the situation there, okay? And then so we have Jamal, how you doing? And Corey Brown says, I got a question. Pedro Gallardo says, Chargers in St. Louis, ha, ha, ha. They do have the same colors, though. Pedro Gallardo says, they have a long lease. I do see this happening. Osman Dias 714. Is the NFL trying to do their games worldwide like FIFA? There are rumors of NFL games in China and Germany. Yeah, they are trying to do that. The problem is that the NFL has... Okay, the basic problem with trying to get the NFL brand any place else beyond the boundaries of the United States is this. There's no football in the schools, all right? There's no American football in the schools for the most part. In any case, you look around the National Football League in America, and what do you have? You have kids who play football at the Pee Wee level. And that's where an interest in football starts, from which grows this enormous popularity that we see today. Okay. So in order for that to happen abroad, you got to put it in the schools. And I think culturally that would be a tall order for the league to try. I don't think you can just walk into any nation and just expect American football to work because of its nature and because of the fact that you don't have it, again, in the schools in other countries. Okay. So Ryan Abbott in the what ballot to buy the San Diego Stadium, and it's 168 was somehow Peru's. Wait. Did I see San Diego was put on the ballot to buy San Diego Stadium? It's 160 acres. It was approved by voters. I didn't see that, and I'm not going to look that up. I need to look at that so I can talk intelligently about it. But thank you for the tip. Jacob Eversol says Raiders. I say Raiders. Raiders. Jay Black says the NFL would work in Brazil. They already have football leagues there and many viewers. Okay, so there you go. You mean American football? Okay. Yeah, wherever there's American football, but particularly among the young, there's an opportunity. I don't see that in China, and yet the NFL has had an office there for some years now. Wright Abbott says 160 acres of prime land plus a great multi-purpose stadium they valued at only $110 million. Ugh, jeez Louise. I got to check that, really. San Diego Stadium. They valued it only $110 million? Wow. That's obviously not replacement cost new. Not at all. Okay, so that lays out where we are as far as Oakland planning the lawsuit and what our case is and what Mayor Schaaf knew and did not know, as well as I didn't talk about such things as why, for example, Floyd Gephardt's plan didn't work out. Floyd Gephardt. Someone said, it's Gephardt, whatever. Make him say Xenophon Abraham. But, it's funny, I have to say this, how some people who don't watch this show anymore will consistently wanting to pit me against Floyd Gephardt. I don't understand why there was that immature element of this whole deal, I like Floyd, but that's how it was presented. And I think to his detriment, Floyd went along with that much more than he should have, because had Floyd come to me and asked for help, I would have been happy to help him. But he didn't. He went to other people. He went largely to people who were older and white that I guess he connected with better because he's just older and white. Maybe that's his mentality. I'm just being honest. And then those folks brought him to the Rotary and other areas, but that's not where he needed to go. Okay, he needed to talk to the council members. Now, would I have done all that for him? I would have advised him. I would have up to a point, but if you're going to report the news, you have to disclose what you're doing, which I would have been happy to just take everybody along for the ride and say, hey, I believe in this person. This is what we're doing, right? This is what we're developing, right? You keep all the doors open and everything else. And then use that to write on it, okay? That's what I would do. And I think it's a fun attempt. It opens up what is a hidden process because, look, there are tons of news organizations that have gotten involved in stadium development over the decades and tried to, for example, let me give you an example. Scott McKibben, when he was head of A&G Newspapers, was on my Super Bowl committee. Ooh, didn't know that, did you? Yeah. The publisher was on my board, was on the board of the Oakland Alameda County Sports Commission. Scott rode with me to our meeting. He was in our meeting with Paul Tagliabue that we had on March 10th of 2000, okay, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Scott was there, actually represented the East Bay business community very well, expertly well, okay? So, for those of you watching who may be in media, maybe the journalists who are from the 20th century, as I call them, the 21st century way of doing this is to be open and use your experience as the theater by which you bring in the people watching. Okay, it doesn't mean you're going to win necessarily. Something else may happen, but you're saying, "Hey, look, this is what we believe in." That's how I would have handled Floyd. Okay, just like when I was asked by Mark Davis to come up with a plan for the Raiders, I shared the news with everybody. I said to Mike Silver, "Hey, this is what he did." Okay, and I talked about the plan. I built a website. That's how you do it. That's the 21st century way of handling this situation. You don't just say, "Well, I can't do it." If you have a unique expertise, it's your duty. It is your duty to do it. It's your duty to act as a civic emissary for a city you care about and its people to make these things happen. And that's what I believe, and that's what I was doing. Okay. Uh, that's how you do that. Someone else asked me, well, should the Raiders have paid you? To be honest with you, it's going to make me sound really stupid, but, or whatever. I never thought about that. I never even said to Mark, hey, I'll do it, but just give me X. That wasn't in my mind. What was in my mind was proving that I could do it because I felt there was an insecurity in me that says, hey, you're laughing at me because I'm black. All right. And I wanted to basically take my thumb and just do that in the collective eye of the public. That was my motivation, as much as it was saving the Raiders in Oakland. It was basically this way of saying, fuck you. Fuck you and your racism, fucking your idea that somebody black can't do something. And I say that because that's an anger that came out of something Dave Newhouse, the Tribune columnist, said to me when we were having lunch in 1999 in June. No, excuse me, May. And he said, we were having lunch at the Marriott downtown Oakland. And I was talking to him about the Super Bowl project. And he said, shouldn't George Vukasin be doing this? And George Vukasin was the president of the Coliseum board before it had been turned over to public control. And George didn't like the way it was done, disliked Ignacio to his grave. George is no longer with us, rest in peace. Friend of mine, great friend to Oakland sports and its legacy. CEO of Peerless Coffee. At any rate, I early on called George. George wished me well, wanted nothing to do with it because of Ignacio and the council. He was tired of politics and politicians. He just wanted to focus on Peerless Coffee. I tried. So what am I supposed to do? Say, oh, well, George, oh my God, George Vukasin didn't want to do it. So, I'm just so sunk in the water because I don't know what to do. And I knew what to do. Okay. So basically, Dave Newhouse is telling me in so many words, well, you're not a white guy, so I don't trust that you can do it. I'm like, come on, really? All right. As opposed to my background, or as opposed to the relationships I had that were developed with the help of Alo Casal, the Raiders executive assistant, and I'd done, helped them with reviving the 49er Raider preseason game after the Raiders returned to Oakland. Okay. So that really, as you can tell by the way I'm reciting it now, stuck in my craw. And there's some things in life you don't forget. Like that happened May of 1999 on a Wednesday. And here it is, Tuesday night, Thanksgiving Eve, before Thanksgiving Eve, right? Of 2018. I'm reciting it to you. There's some things you don't forget. So, all right. So, so my point is that those are my motivations. It wasn't about getting paid. Wasn't in my head. Now, if it got to a point where it was real and someone says, hey, Zenny, we need you as a developer. Yeah, of course you cut out your development piece and everything else. That's what you should do. But in terms of getting anything from the Raiders, anybody, no, that was never in my head. The whole point ever. The whole point was to make sure that there was a plan out there, because at the time nobody had a plan. There was nothing. The Raiders hadn't presented anything, nothing. The city hadn't. Whatever Floyd was talking about was just numbers. There was no artist rendition. There was no concept of land use. There was, and what there was with Coliseum City came with a hole in it where the stadium was supposed to be. And led Eric Grubman to say, hey, it looks like you're working on a land plan, not a stadium plan. So I jumped in for those reasons. And I also jumped in because, and I've said this before, many of you who regularly watch this will know, I've said that Oakland has to prove that it has the will and the initiative to complete big projects. I was put in charge of trying to bring high-speed rail to Oakland. I was sandbagged by a number of politicians. I wrote about this at Oakland News Now in the South Bay. I had Oakland Mayor Lee Harris, who was my boss at the time, give a sort of a handoff to Jerry Brown, who's about to become mayor. This is in '99. So I turned around and Jerry hadn't done anything. Jerry sort of became mayor, and then after he got his second term, he checked out and then thought about being attorney general on the way to governor. All right. And that worked out well for him. Jerry Brown is among the best governors we've ever had in California since the last really great governor we had, which was Jerry Brown. And all of Schwarzenegger. I happen to like the work that Schwarzenegger did. But save for a couple of things. But at any rate, I digress. My point is, civic pride, pride of building, pride of place should drive this project as much as anything else. Okay? That should drive anything that's done. And those of you out there should be very concerned that Oakland has not expressed enough collective civic pride for all of its rapid work, for all of the project, the stuff that it's done with the Raiders, who in turn have treated the city of Oakland inappropriately. You cannot fault anyone in Clark County, Nevada, or Las Vegas for lack of civic, regional, or state pride. And that is why I cheer for them. Because it's a matter, some of it's jealousy. It's like, gee, God, if we had that kind of energy, we'd be so far ahead. And, we would, I'm talking about Oakland, as opposed to this collection of people of different backgrounds who argue a lot and don't draw together like we should, and except in times of, extreme disaster, like earthquakes, or fires. Vegas knows how to do economic development rapidly. It doesn't know how to do plan very well. Planning, economic development, oh yeah, planning sucks. Economic development, getting things done, building things fast tracking projects, getting the labor to have them done, oh yeah, okay. Maybe it's over budget, maybe they ran out of money. But getting started, oh yeah. In terms of getting started, Las Vegas is second to none. Second to none. And that's something that Oakland should look at and copy and say, where do we go wrong? But Oakland is so busy contemplating its own navel. It doesn't do that. All right. The good news for Oakland regarding this lawsuit is that that the way it's structured, because of the Raiders' behavior, is such that Oakland's own civic recalcitrance in doing great economic development will not become an issue. As much as the NFL will try to make it an issue, it won't, because it doesn't matter how bad your economic development effort may be. If you're trying to do something and you're lied to, you know what prevails? The fact that you were lied to. And that is the issue the Raiders have to deal with. Pedro Gallardo says, England is catching on with football. I've seen rugby players react to football highlights on YouTube and they like it. Hmm. Cabello says, do you mock draft? I do. I have. Ryan Abbott says, I was also wondering, why are you thinking about doing an early one? Ryan Abbott says, I was also wondering what the status was of training facility was for Henderson. Oh, I said I was going to check on that. I'll check on it right now. Ryan Abbott says the Raiders bought the land and haven't touched it in Henderson, and that's where they will spend all their time. And I'm wondering, let me check on, I'm listening, I'm reading what you're putting out there, and I'm checking on the headlines. Raiders training camp. Raiders training camp, Henderson, Nevada. Okay. Um, Raiders practice facility site in Henderson has rocky history, and that's according to the Review Journal. And they finalized the land deal. That was 2014. Raiders closed deal on practice facility in June. Let me see the latest news on this. Reno purported the front runner to host future Raiders training camp. So basically, Henderson is off the table. Raiders considering holding training camp in Reno in 2020. Okay. And it says, who would pay for Raiders training camp in Reno? Raiders president says he's committed to bringing training camp to Reno. Okay. So right now we're looking at Reno is what it looks like. That's for next year. Now, as far as the problem with Henderson, according to the Review Journal, this is way back in July 14th. It has a rocky history. Okay. And I'll follow up on this myself. And after this, folks, it's 12 after 12. I'm going to wind down once after I've wind down and say good night and hang out with the folks. Got my folks in town, and stepdad is here. I can bring my stepdad on this show. That'd be fun. He'll probably say no, though. Am I saying he would say no? This is not. The Review Journal's pages are so slow to open. It's not funny. No, I'm serious. It is not funny. It's not funny. Oh, this is horrible. And now finally it takes a minute. It took a minute to open. This is a Sage Mountain Commerce Center land, Greystone, Nevada LLC. And the number, I guess, 702-385 Dust. I'm just reading what I'm seeing here, okay? And I'm trying to scroll down the page. I'm doing this, and it's not moving. Now it moves. 55-acre lot in Henderson. This page is awful. The Review Journal's coding on their website. This is bad, I mean, this really is just this sucks. This just sucks. I mean, I can't even scroll down to read the contents of what's here. This is shameful. I give up. I can't read it. I can't read it. It's still opening. It's just, I'm just gonna put the kibosh on it. Wherever it is, all right, there's a problem. Okay. Hey Jay, happy Thanksgiving. Jay Block says, could you help me bring back college football to UT Arlington? Yeah, I would be very much up for that. Did you go to UT Arlington? Which you're interested in that, Jay? And Ryan Abbott says they haven't even put up a winning sign on a property. Love your info. Thanks. Yeah, I'm trying to open this excuse my language, page on the practice facility. I need to look at that more and find out what's happening. But apparently there's some issue with it. Let me try another way. If I go to Twitter and see what the deal is. Let's see here. Raiders training camp. Raiders training camp. Waiting. All right. Okay, that was August 7th. And waiting for the page to refresh. This must be slow web page night. Maybe it's the connection. Come on. Come on. Hey, for those of you who are into tech or tech news, I'm working on a new live stream coming up that's surrounding tech, startups, guests. So look out for that, folks. All right. Meanwhile, is this opened? No, let's see your latest. Okay. Don't see anything newsworthy. Nothing. Raiders training camp practice. How about Raiders training camp Henderson? Got it? Let's see here. Don't see anything. September 16th is the latest on that. Raiders practice facility may be headed to Henderson, chafing northern Nevada lawmakers. Okay, it says whatever happened to the Raiders practice facility that was supposed to come to Reno. So just reading between the tea leaves, it sounds like all this is tied up in some political complications that are undoubtedly connected to the fact that you had a blue sweep. So you have Sisolak as governor, and he has to be appeased, particularly if most of Nevada delivered blue, including Reno. Then Reno theoretically would be in the driver's seat to get the training camp over Henderson. So this is obviously in a state of flux. That's what it looks like. I'll find out more, but that's what it looks like, okay? Jay Block says, graduated from UT Arlington, May of 2018. Hey, go Mavs. All right, this is Hook'em Horns, right? This is Hook'em Mavs, all right? Woohoo! Native of Arlington for 28 years, more D1 football recruits come out of Arlington than anywhere else in the nation. I'll get your email from your site. Yeah, my email is Zennie62. Here it is, Zennie at zennie62.com. Yeah, I remember was that Gary Lewis, who played tight end for our UT Mavs, who went on to play tight end with the Green Bay Packers. Cool guy. Yeah. Pedro Gallardo says, do you need a graphic designer? No, I don't. Thank you for asking. At some point in the future, I may, but not right now. Okay, folks, I can't think of anything else right now. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving Eve, so there will be a show, and starting early. So come back at 8 o'clock Pacific, 11 o'clock Eastern. All right. See everybody, and hey. Thank you all very, very much for tuning in and asking great questions and being great fans and everything else. Any ideas you have, send me an email for coverage or people you want to see as guests. Let me know. Good night and happy Thanksgiving. I'll see you.